Good morning, everyone, and welcome to your visual art class. It's really nice to see you all. My name is Miss Esposito, and I'm going to be your visual arts teacher. We have a really special lesson today about color theory. Okay, so I'm really excited. I'm sure you guys are too, because we're going to be doing a lot of fun demos. We're going to introduce a really cool project. It's going to be great. Okay, so let me share my screen with you guys. So long as you're all ready, can you guys see me? We're good? Okay. So let me present this. Okay, can we all see the presentation? Press yes in the chat. Thank you. Yes, we're good. Okay. Awesome. All right, so this is color theory, the color wheel. We're going to be learning all about the color wheel, all about how colors interact with our world and how we see them and how we interact with them on a daily basis, okay? So let's get started. As always, we're going to start the day with a do now to get our brains fired up and going, okay? So you're going to open up your art journals and we're going to write down some reflection questions. Today's questions would be, number 1, what are colors? Number 2, where do you think colors come from? And number 3, what color relationships, if any, do you already know? Now, you don't need to know the answers to these questions yet. That's what the lesson is for, right? So we're just brainstorming. We're trying to get our brain all worked out before we start our actual lesson, okay? No pressure here. So I'm going to give you guys like 5 minutes to answer these questions, and then we'll move on to our actual lesson, okay? All right, so as long as we're all ready to go, again, press yes if you're ready, and we'll get started. So today, I just want to discuss the objectives and our material list so that we're all prepared to do our demos and we're prepared to get started immediately, okay? So our objectives include discussing how we see and register colors, defining color theories, relationships, and terms. We're going to introduce a project, and then we're going to start drawing. That's the fun part, right? So we're going to learn, and then we're going to do all the fun stuff. Not that learning isn't fun, but come on, art's a lot more fun. Now our material list includes a pencil, could be any kind of pencil, it doesn't need to be anything specific. Acrylic paint tubes, which all you'll really need is red, blue, and yellow, but we'll get more into that later. You're gonna need a paper towel so that we can clean our palettes and clean our brushes in between use. You're gonna need a paper palette. I'll show you guys the one that I'm using. It's a really big one because I use this one mostly for oil painting, but it can be anything really. It can be like a paper plate. You could use a really small paper palette if that's accessible to you. Just something so that you have a surface to mix all of your colors on. Okay? You're also going to need a palette knife, which is something like this. Okay? It's good if they're really bendy. It doesn't need to be that fancy either. You could also use like the tip of a brush, would work fine. Like something like that. Okay? You're going to need a cup of water to wash your brush in between mixing. You're going to need a brush itself. You're going to need sketch paper. I have something around this size. 2 pieces of sketch paper actually. One's going to be for the demo. One's going to be for our brainstorming a little later. And you're going to need a canvas board for the actual final project. Okay? Now that we have that out of the way, we can actually begin our lesson. So we're going to start with some scientific stuff. Okay? We're going to explain what color actually is. So color is caused by differing qualities of light being reflected or emitted by an object. So you have an object here. It either takes in the light and absorbs it or it reflects off of it. Almost every single object in the world reflects some sort of light. And all of these lights have varying wavelengths, which distinguish all of the colors that we see. So essentially, colors come from the sun. The sun is comprised of white light, which contains all of the visible colors in the rainbow. This white light comes through sometimes glass, as we see in this picture over here, and it produces a rainbow. So you can shine light through glass, you can shine light through a prism. Oftentimes you guys see, I'm sure you're familiar with the picture of the Pink Floyd album. It's a prism and it has like a rainbow coming out of the side. Really cool. And that creates a rainbow. That's also how we get the rainbows in the sky, because the light comes through the raindrops, okay? When certain rays of light bounce off of an object, our eyes inform us of its color based on the light's specific wavelength. So a fun fact is that the longest ray of light is red and the shortest is violet. And then past violet, you have even shorter ones like ultraviolet, which we absolutely cannot see. And then you have even longer ones called infrared, which we can actually just feel the heat off of. It's really cool. And that brings us to the color wheel, which is a representation of the colors that appear in the visible spectrum, organized by their chromatic relationships. This diagram helps artists choose color schemes and understand how they work together. Okay, so the diagram does absolutely have a function. Artists use this all the time, whether it's in their head or right in front of them, to create color relationships and to balance colors together before they start their pieces. I know I use it all the time. I think it's a really helpful tool to decide which colors that I want to use, which schemes that I'm going for. Okay. Any questions so far? Any confusion? Feel free to type it in the chat. All right, let's move on. So the primary colors, I'm sure a lot of people know what the primary colors are, right? This is pretty basic knowledge. I have them pointed out over here. It's red, blue, and yellow. These are colors that cannot be created through mixing, okay? So they only appear in nature, usually through minerals or rocks. Like for example, red comes from cadmium. As long as you have these colors, you can make every other color in the color wheel, which we're gonna do actually right now. So we're gonna start our little demo. You're gonna grab your paints, which should be in front of you. You're gonna squirt. Here, I'll show you guys the paint first. Just really simple paints. They're very cheap. You can get them from AC Moore, Michaels, really cheap ones. You don't need anything fancy. And I'll show you guys what I'm doing in a second. I'm gonna squirt out some red, yellow, and blue, okay? Now in these paints, they're named primary blue, primary yellow, and primary red. That's how I know that I'm using the right kinds of reds, blues, and yellows. Because if you're using a red that's like a really dark red and not the intensity that you need, you're gonna get something completely different. So just make sure you're using the primary colors, okay? It should have it labeled on the paint tube. I'll show you guys. So this is my palette. I just have, see these three colors, these three dots of colors? We don't need a lot. And then I have my sketch paper over here, okay? And we're gonna be imitating this color wheel. So don't worry, I'm gonna show you guys everything. I'm gonna dip into the red. And I'm just gonna place the red where I see it on the color wheel. So the red's gonna go somewhere over here. You can make a circle, make a square. Okay. Now that we have our red, we're gonna wash our brush in the water. Dry it off. And then we're gonna dip into yellow. Yellow's all the way at the top. So we're just gonna mark it. Okay, just like that. Just like the color wheel that you see on the presentation. Nothing crazy. And then lastly, but not least, blue is an amazing color. We're gonna dip into blue, and the blue is right across from the red, okay? Just like that, okay? Now, we're going to learn about our next colors because we're going to have to mix some colors next. It's going to be fun. The next colors that we have are secondary colors, and I have them pointed out over here on the arrows, okay? So these colors are going to be orange, purple, and green. We're going to get these colors by mixing the primaries. Okay, so let's try making them now. Orange is going to be red and yellow. So you're going to take your palette knife now, take a little bit of red, and an even smaller bit of yellow, okay? You don't want to do too much yellow or too much red, because then you're not going to get the color that you want to achieve. So I need to use a little bit more yellow, and we get a nice orange. Okay, I'll show you guys what I'm doing. See, we got a nice orange over there, right? A little bit of red goes a long way. Red's a really intense color, right? So we're going to take our orange back to the sketch paper, and we're going to place the orange right in the middle of red and yellow. Okay? Just like that. Really simple. Gonna wash off our brush again. All right. Now you can use your paper towels, and we're just gonna wipe off our palette knife so that we don't get any colors mixed together, because once you start mixing all the colors together, it becomes really muddy. Okay? Now we're gonna make purple. Purple's gonna be a pretty equal balance of red and blue. If you use too much red, sometimes you get like a little bit of a red violet, which we're gonna make later. If you do too much blue, you're gonna get the opposite, blue violet. So I would say use equal parts. And this is gonna be a pretty dark purple, okay? I will show you guys my work. Put the palette knife to the side. And here we have purple. It's pretty dark, but once we put it on the paper, it'll lighten up a lot. So grab your brush, dip into the purple, and if we look back to our color wheel, purple's right on the bottom. So right across from yellow. And we're just I'm gonna do a little circle. Okay, just like that. It's coming together. So wash off the brush again. You always want to be really clean when you're working with paint. Because like I said before, it gets muddy really quick. And then use your paper towel just to dab the paintbrush so it's not like sopping wet. Okay. Wipe down your palette knife. Now we're going to continue on to green, okay? So for green, you want to be really careful with the amount of colors that you use again. So we're going to be mixing blue and yellow together, but yellow is a very, very light color, okay? Blue is a lot more intense than yellow. So you want to use a little bit of blue and a lot of yellow, okay? Grab some yellow, a little bit of blue. And again, you can always, if you put too much blue at first, you can always just add more yellow, okay? It's not a big deal. See, I actually did a little too much yellow. So I'm gonna add a little bit more blue. Trial and error, that's what it's all about. Nothing is ever perfect when it comes to art, okay? But that's what I love so much about it. Maybe a little more blue, and then I'll show you guys what I did. Okay. Oh, there we have green. Okay. We're gonna take our brush again, dip into the green, and green is gonna be right across from orange, right? Right in between blue and yellow. Okay, it's pretty good green. You're gonna have something just like that on your own paper. Nothing crazy, right? Really basic. We just want to get a feel for mixing our colors before we actually start our final, right? Practice goes a long way. Clean everything up. Always clean as you go. Good art is clean art. Okay, so let's continue on to our next set of colors, which are tertiary colors. These are colors that are created by mixing both primary and secondary colors, okay? So we're gonna use now both of our primaries and all of our secondaries, okay? And we're gonna mix those together to create all of these in-between colors that I have pointed out over here. So let's start with red-orange. So for this, you guessed it, you're gonna mix red and orange. Okay, so take some of your orange, just a little, you don't need a lot, and some of your red. Okay. It's a really pretty color. So mine looks like this. Okay, this one right here. Now I'm gonna grab my piece of paper again, and I'm gonna dip in. And it's gonna be between red and orange, right? Because that's the color that we get when we mix them. Okay, there we have it. Might look really similar. Mine looks a little bit similar to red. I could have probably used a little more orange, but that's okay. We're just practicing. No pressure. All right, clean off your brush. Clean off your palette knife. Now let's move on again to yellow-orange. So we're gonna take some of our orange again. And remember what I said before about yellow, it's not an intense color. So you wanna use a little bit of that orange and mostly yellow. Okay, so I have right here, really bright and warm color. Gonna dip in again. And we're gonna place it in between yellow and orange right over here, okay? All right, that's looking pretty good. Okay, so those two are done. Let's wash everything off. I'm losing room on my paper towel. Okay, now let's move on to yellow-green. This is a really fun one. I love this color. It's like a nice lime. Okay, so again, lots of yellow, a little bit of green. Take some of that green. Okay, so this is what I got. Sorry, it's a little hard. There we go, right there. I don't know if you guys could see it that well, but yeah. So we're gonna place this color, just as we see it on the color wheel, right in between green and yellow. Okay, there we have it. Pretty cool. Now our next color is going to be blue-green, which is absolutely one of my favorite colors in the world. Also called teal. It's just really beautiful, right? Who else likes teal? Anybody? See a couple of people answering, me too. Okay, oh, I actually need some more yellow. If you need more, go ahead and put some more on your palette. Okay, we're gonna be using green and blue. So let's dip into some green. And this one can be more equal, like how we made the purple. So red and blue were equal parts. I would say green and blue can be equal as well. Okay. So I got a pretty deep color actually. Bend my screen a little bit. It's gonna be right there. Okay. It's really nice. Gonna put it right in between blue and green, okay? Ooh, it's so pretty. Love that color. Love it. Okay. How we doing so far? Everybody good? Clean off your brushes. Cleanliness is key, always. We got two more, and then we will move on. Okay. Now we'll do red and purple next, okay? So let's make red violet. Gonna dip into some of this violet, some red. Ooh, this is a really pretty color too. Okay. Show you guys. See that right beneath the purple? That's gonna be your red violet. All right. And it's gonna be in between red and purple over here, okay? There we go. Almost complete. Mine's a little bit more of not really a wheel, more like a color oval. That's okay. Nothing is perfect. Clean everything off. Now let's grab our knife again, and we're gonna do blue violet, which is a really fun color. Grab some violet, grab some blue, mix them together. That's a really nice color too. These are all nice colors. It's gonna be right there. So right next to my purple is blue violet. Okay, let's dip into it. And just like the others, you're gonna do our only empty space left, right in between blue and purple. Might have done a little bit too much blue in mine, but that's all right. Okay, so there we have it. All of our colors mixed together. So essentially, that's kind of like the idea behind this project. You guys are going to get really comfortable mixing colors, knowing how to get each color from all of the primaries. So that'll really help you out with pricing when you're doing like art pieces and you only have to buy red, blue, and yellow paint. And white and black, of course, which we're going to be learning about next. Okay, so put your palettes to the side. And let's move on. So we're just going to go over some terms as well that are really important when discussing color. A hue is just simply the name of a color. So red is a hue, orange is a hue, yellow, green is a hue, you get the point, right? Moving on, saturation refers to the purity and the intensity of a hue, okay? So over here on this side, we have a very high saturation. So that's going to be like your primary red. And on this side, we have desaturation, which is what happens when all of the purity is taken out of the color. And everything in between is your values from purity to desaturation, okay? So these are also called tones when you add gray to hues. Okay? Ooh, sorry. Moving on to value is going to be the lightness and the darkness of a hue. So this is what happens with white and black. We have all these tonal differentiations between that. So obviously over here is white, over here is black. A lot of times there are exercises that you do with graphite where you create tones and you create like a space like this. And you, in all of these different squares, you differentiate the intensity that you're using of the graphite to make it darker and darker and darker and darker. It's called the value scale. Have any of you done that yet in an art class before this one? Because we're probably going to do one, but not in this lesson. Okay, a few more terms. These are really important to know for this project because we're going to be utilizing them. Shade and tint, okay? Two opposites. Shade is a hue produced by adding black, and a tint is a hue produced by adding white. So here we have an example of this utilized on blue, okay? So in the middle is an original hue. That's going to be your base color. Everything to the right of that is going to be tints. So you're progressively adding white and getting all of these different shades. Beautiful little shades, okay? Or I should say tints, because on the left-hand side is shades. And these you're going to be progressively adding black. So this would be a little bit of black, a little more black, and the most black, okay? We're going to be utilizing those in our project. And temperature refers to warm versus cool colors. This is more of like an emotional response to colors. So your warm colors include yellow, oranges, reds, even pinks, okay? Anything that reminds you of like the sun, a warm day, summer, spring, all of those colors. And the cool colors can actually be warm too. That's a little more complex, but there are such things as warm blues and versus cool blues. But cool colors are primarily blues, purples, and greens. These are colors that remind you of sadness. They're less intense than the warm colors, often associated with like winter, even fall, okay? So now we're gonna talk about some color schemes. And these are gonna be when you're adding colors together, what kind of relationships work throughout the color wheel. So monochromatic color schemes involves one hue along with its shades and tints. So for example, this is an example of red. If you picked red, your color scheme is going to have all of these different values in it. So here we have, this is a very intense red in the middle over here. And then you have your shades down here and your tints up here. And monochromatic schemes also include tones. So you can also add gray to red in order to produce more differentiation in your color, okay? Another color scheme, complementary colors. This is one of my favorites. So this is gonna be any color along with the color that's directly across from it on the color wheel. So we have purple and yellow, blue and orange, red and green, okay? These lead to very, very interesting color compositions, okay? Blue and orange, one of my favorite compositions in the world. It leads to very interesting art, all right? It's a little bit challenging to get used to. Like, you wouldn't think purple and yellow go together very well, but if you have the correct intensities and the correct tones that are involved, it looks really great, all right? Next scheme is analogous colors. These are colors that are next to each other on the color wheel, and it can include up to 4 colors. So 2 to 4 colors. So we have yellow, orange, we have orange. You can do green, blue, and blue, or you could also add blue, violet, right? It's pretty cool. Okay, and then we have triadic colors. And that's color schemes that involve 3 colors that are equally spaced on the color wheel. So this one gets a little bit more complex, but leads to really interesting compositions as well. Okay, so for example, you have yellow, green, red, orange, and blue, violet. You can also do yellow, you could do blue, green, you can do red, orange. Okay, as long as it's equally spaced and involving 3. Triadic is kind of, it's kind of suggesting 3. So that's an easy way to remember that. Okay, moving on, we're gonna introduce our project. So in this project, you're gonna design your own color wheel. So you're gonna use the sectioning of the color wheel, but it's gonna be your own design, okay? I'll show you guys some examples in a little bit. But first, we're gonna brainstorm our ideas. That's what we're gonna be doing primarily today. Then you're gonna choose your design that you'd like to use after enough brainstorming. Then you're gonna draw your design on a canvas that's shaped as a circle so that we're imitating a color wheel. Then you're gonna draw your color wheel diagram on top of your design. You're gonna mix your colors and you're gonna paint, okay? It's a long process, but we'll get there. Any questions? Okay, so someone's asking, can we use any design that we'd like? Yes, you are totally open to any ideas that you might have. As long as it's school appropriate, we're good. And I'm gonna show you guys some examples right now. So here we have something very radial, a little bit abstract, kind of looks like a mosaic. You can go somewhere that route. It's really pretty. It has like, see all the different shades in it. It's not just blue, right? We have some contrast in here as well. So everything's outlined really nice with black. Some ideas. You can do something fun, like Patrick. We're gonna do more traditional color wheel. This has like some color schemes added into it. Like we have some purple and yellow complementary colors in there. We're gonna do something like on this side over here. Okay. But you could do something really fun, like Patrick, or like any character that you think of, any character that you like. You could do food, like in this one, we have pears, we have pumpkins, some flowers, really nice designs that are all equally spaced out. So yeah, those are really pretty. And then these are a little bit more complex, okay? This is if you really want to challenge yourself, you can go this route too. So we have another character here, except this one's got all different kinds of shading going on, color mixing, really beautiful. But see how we have all of our colors sectioned out like the color wheel? That's what we're looking for. That's the effect that we want. This one I thought was really cool as well because you have the faces coming out of the sides outside of the color wheel, which you can also do. Okay, project's pretty flexible. As long as you have your color wheel in there, you can really do whatever you want. So definitely get as creative as possible with your brainstorming. Now today, we're going to brainstorm ideas for your design. So you're going to grab a piece of sketch paper and begin brainstorming at least 3 ideas. So you can only do 3, but it definitely has to be 3 or more, okay? I don't want you guys just choosing one thing that you want to do and sticking to it, because then you're not discovering anything that you might like better. You always want to explore as many ideas as possible before starting a final piece. So for example, I made some, and I'll show you guys. So my first idea was an eye, because I was thinking about the radial symmetry kind of thing that we saw in the first example, that would look really good as a color wheel, right? So for example, I could put only the color wheel over here, split it up into the sections, and all the rest could be like normal colors, right? That would look kind of cool. Then my other idea was my cat, of course, because I love her. I love cats. Could be anything that you're interested in, right? And then I kind of liked this one better. I don't know. Like, I was set on the eye, and then I started another one, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I do want to do my cat. So you always discover new things as you move along. That's the kind of like the idea behind doing at least 3 brainstorming ideas. And then next, I just did kind of like a scenic thing that I thought would look really pretty as a color wheel. So you have a lot of different things going on in this, right? Okay, so that's what your piece of paper should look like. You should have nice, evenly spaced thumbnails, nothing too messy. If you need to use multiple sheets of paper, that's fine too. If you want to do each idea on one piece of paper, that's okay. Whatever method works best for you and gets your creative juices flowing, then that's what you can go with, okay? And then after you're done with that, you're going to discuss your ideas with a peer. You guys are going to go over what you both think is best for you to do, okay? Because that's really important too. You got to be able to talk about your art and your ideas and how they correlate with what you're interested in, okay? Because as an artist, artists have to talk about their work all the time. They got to make some sort of sense to their viewer, right? So it's good to understand and talk about what your interests are when it comes to your art. Okay, once you decide what design you'd like to use for your final project, you're going to consult with me. I'm going to give you some additional ideas if necessary. And then we could start, right? So your homework for today, if you've decided what you want to do after a brainstorming process, then you can begin sketching on your final canvas board. You don't have to finish the sketches. This is a process, okay? It's a little bit of a long process. So we're gonna stretch this project out for probably over the next week or 2, I'd even say, because painting takes a long time as well. But I at least want you to begin sketching your final canvas board tonight. Even if it's a few lines, if that's all you could get to, that's okay, because we're gonna sketch a lot tomorrow as well. And then for next class, we're gonna continue working on our sketches, as I said, and if we get there, we're gonna begin dividing our boards into segments to organize our color wheel, okay? Any questions about the homework so far? Anything? Correct. So you're only gonna be, if you decide to brainstorm all the rest of class, that's fine. If you decide that you wanna go forward with an idea that you have, you can come to me, I can approve that idea, and then you can get started. But if you do not get started on your final tonight, then you should start it for homework. Yes. Okay? And then I also want you to complete a very short Google form assessment, just to go over the lesson a little bit so that I can see what you guys understood, what you guys didn't understand. Okay? And I'm going to show you guys what that looks like. It's going to be right here. All right? So this is the Google form that I'm going to import into your Google Classrooms. Really simple answers, okay? No pressure. Even if you don't know it, that's okay. I just like want to know, okay? I want to know what we need to work on, what you guys are absorbing. All right, little short answers over here. You don't need to write that much. Just write what you feel like writing, okay? But that's going to count as a homework grade. Nothing crazy. Just make sure you do it, okay? All right, so that kind of wraps up our lesson. If you guys have any remaining questions, you can type it in the chat, or feel free to email me or text me. That's completely fine too, okay? Please text me your questions. Don't just go in this not knowing anything, not knowing what you're doing, and then you come to me at the end of class one day and you're like, Miss E, I really hate what I did. Please help me. Okay? If you have any questions, if you need anything cleared up, please come to me. Always gonna be here. All right? Thank you so much, guys, for listening, for being such attentive students, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Okay? Have fun. Bye.